Round 2 of this year's SA Off-Road Championship saw the Off-Road Brigade tackle the Barberspan 500. A race that is traditionally one of the toughest of the national calendar drew a full field of special and production vehicles, motorcycles and quad racers. Year in and year out, national championships produce some new talent and some familiar faces reappear on the scene. Back in action after a year on the sideline is former Barberspan winner Richard Manning.
It's very slow this year because I had a year off last year due to a little bit of financial constraints. But I'm starting again this year. Sun City was alright, a good race. I had a bit of trouble in the mud and got some wire caught in the back wheel. So that slowed me down a bit, but other than that, it's going good.
I thought, yeah, we had a very good run at Sun City. The car ran very hot because of the very muddy conditions, and it actually turned out to quite a hot day, so the car ran very hot. It used a bit of oil pressure ran low near the end. So we decided to rebuild the motor completely. In fact, we put another motor in, and it's actually proved the right thing to do because it develops a lot more horsepower, and the car's really nice and strong. We've gone through the whole car from bumper to bumper, stripped it, replaced rose joints, haven't missed out anything because we really want to go for the championship this year.
From production vehicle championship contender Neil Woolrich to Marius Bahrain, who this year will campaign a single-seater in the special vehicle class.
Marius, you've changed from a twin-seater to a single-seater in a rather interesting car, a lot smaller, a lot more compact. Tell us about it, how it's designed and configured.
Well, that's basically my idea, is to go lighter. Weight in off-roading to me is a very big factor, and I went to the small car. It's much lighter, it's easier for me to handle, accelerates better and stops quicker. So that's basically what I want.
When it comes to innovation, off-roaders also come up with bright ideas.
Tell us about that double visor you have on there.
This is a piece of Pyrex glass on here, and what happens is this is made out of Lexan. So what happens is when you get mud on it and you wipe it with your glove or with the thing, it scratches the lens. So we're using a Pyrex glass on here. It's a little bit stronger and it's easier to wipe, and it keeps clean, and you've got vision all the time. So they say it works. We'll tell you tomorrow because it's going to rain here for sure. I just don't know when.
Alfie, vertel ons 'n bietjie hoe dinge lyk vir hierdie wedren.
Dis my gunsteling wedren hierdie Barberspan, en ons het hom al 'n paar keer gewen. Ons is baie optimisties vanjaar om weer te wen. Ons het net so 'n bietjie iets wat ons so bietjie sal ek sê bietjie rem, en dit is ons voor as is nog nie uitgesorteer soos wat ons hom wil hê nie.
For the unfortunate Errol Dalton, the race was over before it started.
It's more than 7:30. The John brought two jet skis out to play on the dam, and it just happened so quick. I was on the one jet ski and Daryl Curtis was on the other one, and we just collided in the middle of the dam and took me out. Got taken to hospital, and the X-ray, there was a bone broken in my leg.
The 25-kilometre time trial produced a scintillating performance from former champions Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne in the Mototech Raceco. With the Raceco performing to its full potential, Schilling and Thorne set up a time only 3 seconds slower than the fastest bike. The pair were half a minute ahead of brothers Herman and Karl-Heinz Sorwald in the BF Goodrich Raceco. There was also an impressive performance from veteran Linton Draper and navigator Corrie Ngubeni in another of the awesome Racecos. Springbok's KASSIE and Richard Leeke were again out in the Castrol Toyota Hilux, affectionately known as Fred, with a new truck said to be in the pipeline for the pair.
Ja, daar is 'n nuwe een op pad, maar het gaan nog 'n tydjie vat voor hy reg is. Ek glo nie ons moet hom bou en sommer begin ry nie. Ons gaan eers so 'n paar streeks tydrenne doen met hom in die off-road afdeling, en dan sal ons hom gebruik as hy reg is. En moontlik vir die desert race. Ek wil nie beloftes maak nie. Gilo is besig om hom te werk, en maar dit gaan tyd vat om 'n nuwe voertuig te bou. Mens kan nie net oornag bou nie.
Reigning South African production vehicle champions ALFIE Reyneke and Robin Houghton took a more conservative approach to the time trials in the Bankfin Toyota Land Cruiser. In recent years, the wily Reyneke, who farms in the area, has virtually made the race his own property. Not surprisingly, Reyneke and Houghton were high on the list of pre-race favourites, along with the Italians Neil Woolrich and Paul Vermaak in the Nissan Sani. The Nissan won races last season and is always a threat for top honours, but the production vehicle runners were completely outclassed in the time trial. The top 10 positions all went to special vehicles, with Schilling and Thorne leading the way. With ALFIE Cox back in South Africa after a lengthy overseas campaign, there were no guesses as to who was favoured to win the motorcycle category.
This is my 11th Barberspan this year. I remember coming here in '85 for my first one, and Jeremy's brother Mark, it was his 10th one, and I thought, gee, 10 Barberspans, and here we go, it's my 11th Barberspan, and it hasn't been the best race for me. I think I've only had four or five wins in the 10 times, and it's always been seconds, thirds, very close, and I like the race, and I just hope maybe this year will go okay.
Back in the saddle after a serious leg injury and a year racing cars on the track, Jeremy Davies will tackle some marathon events overseas later in the year.
What is it you can't stay away?
No, it's not that I can't stay away. I'm doing the Total Super Series and a few long ones in preparation for Australian Safari. That's it. I'm not here to break my neck. I'm here to practice, get some good riding in. So the best place to come is one of these long races.
The pro-action KTM pair of ALFIE Cox and Darryl Curtis led home the bike time trial, with Louis Kairos and Ronald Bailey the surprises in the top 5. There were no time trial surprises in the quad racing category. As expected, it was Wikus van Deventer, who has a dairy farm in the Lichtenburg area, who led home the pack on the Jojo Tanks Yamaha. Van Deventer is currently in a class of his own, but behind him there were one or two fierce battles with the Breckel brothers, Mark and Paul, doing the chasing along with Yuri du Plessis. The quad racers compete in modified and standard classes, and when the dust had settled, it was Van Deventer who finished more than 20 seconds ahead of Mark Breckel, with brother Paul third on the second of the Brasco refrigeration Yamahas. Van Deventer and the Breckels are experienced off-road racers, but for Corey and Gabeni, the Barberspan 500 is part of a learning curve.
Corey, you've been with Mr. Drayton now for some 4 years. Where did it all start and where is it all going to end?
I started as a painter. Then I come to work on the racing cars as a spinner boy. 1 year later, I started to do the preparation in the cars. And after 3 years, it's now my 4th year at the Draper People's Company. Then I started to navigate with Mr. Draper. We do the roof and Draper 1000. We're actually doing well. I don't know, maybe at the end of the day I'll drive. But
You want to know what my strategy is for today? Yeah. To go out and give them carrots. Lead from the front. Hopefully it hasn't rained too much last night. There's of course an advantage for those following us, which I often have to do, and that there will not be that much dust. We have changed this morning the car to some tyres which should handle the mud a bit better. Chance we're taking.
Mentioned the Barberspan 500 to farmers in the area, and they grin broadly, with the race guaranteed to bring the rain. Overnight downpours would have turned sections of the route into quagmires, but it was easy going in the opening stages, with the Solwood brothers in hot pursuit of Schilling and Thorn. Third were Max Carolyn and Kenny Scholthammer, and the Raceco on loan from Botswana driver JJ Vormerans, while Carolyn waits to take delivery of a new Raceco from the United States. Off-road races provide an annual treat for local residents who all know the best vantage points. ALFIE Reineke is a firm favourite among the locals and was into an immediate lead in the production vehicle class. Right behind the Bankfin Toyota Land Cruiser were Jackie Joubert and Donnie Smith in a four-wheel drive Jojo Tanks Volkswagen powered by a Volvo engine. One of the more interesting vehicles in the race, the Beetle, was going like a train. Former production vehicle champion Cliff Barker, with Malcolm Joubert alongside him in the SVM Land Rover, were lying second in the production vehicle category. Right behind them was Richard Carolyn in the first of the single-seaters in the lubrication equipment Raceco. Carolyn run the Sun City 400, the first event of the season, but for others, there were tales of early woe.
We were stopped at the road over here, and the guy behind us, in the muddy conditions, couldn't brake and just rammed into the back of us and helped us move the diff about 5 meters forward. We're trying to repair the damage, but we don't have enough spares here. Favourable
conditions on early sections of the route soon gave way to plenty of mud and water. At the front of the production vehicle category, ALFIE Reinecker and Robin Houghton had matters under control in the Bankfin Toyota Land Cruiser. The special vehicle entry of Jackie Joubert and Danny Smit was still going strong, but the 4x4 Volkswagen was later to run into problems. Also going along steadily were Cliff Barker and Martin Joubert in the SVM Land Rover with a big V8 motor sounding healthy. Bucks Carolyn and Kenny Scholthammer had plenty of opportunity to test their new scratch-proof face visors, and thus far they appear to be working. Steadily closing the gap on his younger brother was Obut Richard Carolyn, who revels in wet conditions in the lubrication equipment raceco. The steady pace and consistency are the elder Carolyn's recipe for success, and it works. Nick Harper and Richard Hill in the Pro-M Rock Oil Raceco had also opted for a steady pace. The pair were moving up the pecking order, although all the water around did not always agree with the engine electrical systems. Behind the Harper-Hill combination, the Nissan Sani, in the hands of Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak, was lying third in the production vehicle category, behind the Reinecker Houghton Land Cruiser and the Barker Joubert Land Rover. A terrific personal battle was going on between Linton Draper and Corey Ngubeni in the Draper Excavator Hire Raceco, and special vehicle class B leaders Frans Chapek Senior and Junior in the V Motors Raceco. There were times when the route marking was a little dodgy, and saturated pans that often stretched for kilometres made life difficult for all concerned. Early race leaders Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne, it was the end of the road. The Mototech Raceco was limping to retirement with a damaged engine. Out in front of the Quad Racer Brigade, Vickers van Deventer was skating all over the place on the Jojo Tanks Yamaha and doing his impersonation of a motorised two-step. If you thought Van Deventer was having problems, spare a thought for Paul Breckel, who found a new method of coming to an abrupt halt. Oh, shame.
It's the last thing I did for my life. Had to get it on full as well.
Breckel escaped with nothing more than injured pride, but his race was also over.
On the bloody piece of
Seffi van Skalkbeek and Everett van Rensburg were wet and covered in mud, but on their way to a win in Class C in the Orco in the special vehicle category. The pair looked to be full of the joys of spring. Showing a little more circumspection than Paul Beckel a little earlier, Christo Farabarova was having a great run at the front of the standard quad racer category and was running 4th overall. There was plenty of drama early on in the motorcycle category. Most of the front runners found themselves hopelessly lost in the first 80 kilometres. By the time they'd sorted out that little problem, the likes of Darrell Curtis and Alfie Cox, who crashed heavily and lost his number plate in the process, found themselves in the unaccustomed position of racing alongside backmarkers. From then on, it was a case of having to throw caution to the wind. The conditions did not make it any easier for the back markers in the quad racer category. Behind the quad racer rear guard, there was an all-out charge as the likes of Grant Broomfield set off after the AGA Panasonic Pro Action KTM pair of Curtis and Cox. It was a no-holds-barred racing as the quicker riders threw everything into making up for lost time when they strayed off the route. First into the refuel and service point at the halfway mark was Bankfin Toyota Land Cruiser of ALFIE Reinecker and Robin Houghton. Reinecker's intimate knowledge of the Barberspan 500 conditions, be they wet or dry, was again turning out to be a telling factor. Not that it was plain sailing for Reinecker and Houghton.
We had a hell of a lot through that water, getting mist from the engine. There's a lot of water going through the air filter. Yeah. And, but otherwise it's going well.